Flash Annual #1. Joshua Williamson writing, of course, Howard Porter and Christian Duce on the art. And holy shit. Can I just start by saying holy shit?
Yeah.
And just be like, yes. Because I think Titans is a fine little book, but it's not particularly noteworthy. I feel like this is, hey, here, bring into the actual Flash book, we're going to actually focus on original Wally West, we're going to put him back in place. By the end of this issue, he is living once again in Keystone City. We've re-established Magenta. And obviously the big twist at the end, which we'll get to, we've re-established his major villain.
So you read this before I did.
Yeah.
I saved this because, the Johns' Flash has a special place in my heart, and Wally has a special place in my heart. And so I was like, but I saw what you had said.
Remind me, what did I say?
So you had said in our comics thread about you got to that last page and you almost jumped out of your seat. So I knew something was coming. What that was, and I'm gonna lay the seed right now, I would have never guessed. Like, just based off of what you had said, I
skimmed through this again right now. I think I figured out what was about to happen the first time I read it from the previous panel or two before the page turned to the reveal, because it really set it up. Because he started talking about, I'm going to make the Flash the best he can be, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, right? But see the page before that when he's talking to the other characters who would turn out to be the Renegades. There's a moment where he says tragedy, and that word is bolded. And when I was skimming through it the second time, I really caught that and went, oh!
It's all there.
That little tease. Oh, you teasy bastard, Williamson.
If there has been any story of Williamson's Flash, it's been an homage to John. It's this one, because just from the outstart of it, where you're looking around that Flash Museum and you're picking up on things.
Yeah, which by the way, so these guys are investigating the Flash Museum because it's basically the aftermath of when Iris killed Thawne, and they're investigating the chaos, and they mention hey, something's wrong here. History's not right. It's changed, and they're looking at a statue of the Titans and hey, this is not how things happen. So something's changed things in the past. Something's affected the timeline. So they're actually hey, New 52. Manhattan, all this stuff's happened. What's going on?
Something's weird. Yeah. Well, you look at the very first page, and there's impulse.
Time is cracked down the middle, and
and among all these other things, and then you're just looking on the next page, you have the tragedies of the Flash, and right key center is New Wally. You're like, well, is that a hint of things to come? And then you're like, oh, well, these guys dressed up look kind of familiar, but I don't know, And then you zoom in on the back, and they have all the other speedsters. You can see Johnny Quick and Max Mercury. So, it's just taking full advantage of, if you're a fan and you're familiar with all of these little Easter eggs here.
Yeah, it's teasing me all these things. And of course, you get to these characters, and they discover that Iris. I'm just sticking in the 25th century stuff. We'll talk about the bulk of the book afterwards. And it's okay, so Iris West did this. That's no excuse for killing, even if it is Thawne. And it's okay, so we're going to go back in time, and they reveal that this is the Renegades. Now, I wouldn't remember all these names off the top of my head because it's not like I've encountered them a bunch of times. But so basically, these are Mirror Monarch, Commander Cold, Heatstroke, Weather Warlock, and Golden Guardian. Obviously, all plays on the classic Rogues team.
And they come from the right before Flashpoint.
Yeah, the Dastardly Death of the Rogues was the name of the arc.
Yeah, and these guys were from the future that basically something happens where the Rogues are seen as heroes, akin to the Flash.
Yeah.
So these guys in the 25th century pick up the mantle, and they're almost like the science police of Central and Keystone City.
I was going to say, given what they're doing now, I'm going to refer to them as the Time Cops. They're Time Cops.
Yeah. Well, that's why they were there. They were there to ensure that nothing happened in the Dastardly Death of the Rogues with Patty and Barry because of how things end up with Iris. So
So that's super exciting. I mean, I love the concept of the Renegades and the idea that, because in this specifically, the character who we're getting to says that it's to mock the Rogues, that we're making heroic versions of them. So we've changed that a little bit. But so the big reveal at the end is that this is Zoom, This is Hunter Zolomon, Wally's Reverse Flash, and which, by the way, is a perfect reveal after an issue that focuses on Wally as the main character and reestablishes his life in Keystone City, reestablishes that he is finally going to try and put his life back together, and then you drop his arch nemesis. You drop Hunter Zolomon at the end.
The point of Zoom never was to be the arch nemesis. It was always to make Flash better.
Oh, of course. I mean, I know that. I'm saying that he is his nemesis.
And that's still how this feels here at the end.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is he's taken over as this, like, he looks like Cobra Commander, but he's supposed to be a judge.
But that's what leads up to that final page. He's saying, I'm going to make the Flash the best they can be. I'm going to put them to war. He's orchestrating this war. And obviously, there's a little thematic thing that sort of hints at it in the middle where Barry and Wally have a bit of a fight and they have that page where they're facing off against each other. And obviously, this is just a fight about them lying to Iris and like who's doing the right thing and whatnot. But it almost reminds me of that moment in Age of Ultron where it teases the Civil War for the movie, and Iron Man and Cap kind of have like a little argument. It's kind of that moment teasing the.
Let's establish teams now, right? We're all Team Wally.
But I think we're all Team Wally.
Yeah. Connor?
Yes, but I want him to keep this costume.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I don't want him to go back to a full head covering.
Well, what if Barry leaves though for some reason? What if Barry goes and we replace him?
That said, I brought this up with No Justice and with Flash War. I feel like Barry he's going to the 31st century at the end of this. He's going to with Iris to create the Tornado Twins. And all of that stuff, so Wally can get that moment of shine. And he's the one that's leading that team. What was it, Team Wonder? No. Team...
it was the science one. Team...
Wisdom?
Pete's team.
Team Wisdom, Wisdom.
Wisdom, there you go. So, I feel like this cemented that a little bit. Just when you bring back Zoom and all of these other tropes that are so key, to me, to the Flash mythos, because this is the first Flash that I read.
The fight at the top at the start, and there's a fun, it's both Wally's and Barry like teaming up, and then they're getting food, and then I love that Wally like casually just drops, ever since Iris killed Thawne, and then Wally's like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, did you not mention you Wally to him? He's like, no, I thought you did. And they're like, what happened? Because basically Iris like shows up at the scene after they beat the top, and wants to, who's this new Wally with the red hair? Like, who are you? And he's not ready to tell her. And it basically at the end of the book, it sounds like he's made the decision that he's going to try and tell her. Like he wants to talk to Iris and explain what's going on. And all this, and like Barry like accusing him of like, hey, much like Superman kind of accused him of not really putting his life back together, much like the Titans did. He's like, hey, you need to like actually try and actually have a life again, not just be the Flash all the time. So he moves to Keystone City. He goes to speak to Magenta, who doesn't remember who she is. Frankie's just like a person here. She's just got a job. She's normal.
Yeah.
And then after a minute of talking to him, she remembers who she used to be, and then she her evil persona takes over, and she goes nuts and starts fighting him.
She's pissed.
Yeah, she is pissed.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then he calms her down, reminds her of the good times, and then she's like struggling to deal with all these memories, like the good memories, the bad memories. She was going to be a Titan, and she's a rogue, and all these things. So, that was all fun. It was all good stuff. It was all character building for Wally. And then, so when it got to the point towards the end, when he's like, he's got an apartment, he's in Keystone City, he's now living there. And this is the great thing about having both of them, is that Barry's always been Central City. Wally was typically Keystone. So you've got the Twin Cities, you've got two Flashes. It's kind of perfect thematically to have one be in each at the same time.
It was never an accident why they did that. You know, it was for that reason. You know, and if we can get a time where they do coexist, that'd be super cool.
That would be awesome.
Even if they do get rid of, you're saying, Barry's going to go off at the end of that stuff. We can have a Wally in each city.
Yeah, we could. Here's my perfect scenario. I think is if the books are going single shipping, is we then have two Flash books. One's Barry, one's Wally. Each single shipping.
I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Do they share new Wally? Like, do they joint custody?
Yeah, I think so.
No, Barry can have new Wally, and Wally can have, or old Wally can have Bart. That's fine.
Oh, so you're just bringing characters back now to add into this?
Oh, I don't think that they can't. Wait, they can't not do Bart after seeding him all through this. They don't do that stuff by accident. That wasn't.
Sure.
You don't have Porter. add all the stuff in there. So, and not pay off.
I mean, it'll happen eventually, Matt. I have no doubt. But
yeah. So,
yeah.
But I do think 2 Flash books would be ideal.
I'm just trying to think. What do you call the set? Because obviously Barry's will just be called the Flash. Wally's would be called
Fast Man Alive.
I could see that. Yeah. I mean, Speed Force is one that I've thrown about a lot before. Which, by the way, I loved the burn when he said to Barry, and if I really want to run away from you, you can't do anything about it. It's like, yeah, I'm the fastest man alive. I like that. That was a sick burn.
That was good.
I dig it. I love this. This was great. I was so happy with what they did with Wally. I was happy with what because I loved the Grodd plot. We just started that first issue of that Flash arc last week. I loved that Flash issue. I thought it was great, and then I think this is hinting at great things after. So I think Williamson's like really starting to like hitting some big stuff that I'm excited about.
I think the run went through a little bit of a lull recently, in my opinion at least. But it looks like, oh no, we're back on top form, all cylinders firing, let's go.
This is the best it's ever been. I think issue 700 and then this issue, the annual, I think they've both been 2 of the best issues he's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the best since the Godspeed stuff at the start.
I think it's better than that even as well. But I mean,
that's bad. I'd have to think about it. Like, I'm not saying they're not.
But
that was the highest point.
Genuinely exciting.
It is, yeah.
I
have to say, I actually saw the ending on Reddit because someone put it on Reddit without a spoiler tag. The prick.
Oh, what a dick!
Yeah, that's a shit.
Yeah.
Move.
So but it didn't ruin it. It didn't ruin the impact. It still lands when you read it, even when you know that going in.
Now, I'm happy that I didn't know it because it was a nice big kind of like just. It was right before I turned the page. I got it. And then I seen it, and I was like, "Oh, you beautiful bastard, Williamson!"
Yeah, that would have been nice. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but hey, but no, I'm genuinely excited, and I was thrilled reading this week. So
do we call? So now Thawne is Reverse Flash. Like that's his de facto because now we have Zoom. Back.
It depends how they go with it. I wonder. Like, here's my question. This is the first thing I thought of. Actually, I've not brought it up yet. Does Zoom, much like Thawne, does he remember the timelines? Does he know time was changed?
See, I don't think so because his thing was never really Speed Force, so I don't know.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they do it, it's because he's not from the future. So what happened that he ended up there?
Here's a question, right? Do you think because the memories of Zoom of Zolomon for Wally are so severe? He tried to kill his unborn children. Right?
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
Well, he nearly succeeded too, if it not for Barry and the treadmill.
Absolutely, yeah. It was basically timey-wimey Flash Speed Force nonsense that got us the kids in the end. But so, do you think? Because obviously we know that Wally's like struggling with his memories. Like he's got like multiple timelines in his head, and they're not quite clear what's real and what's not. In fact, we even get a flashback to original New Teen Titans in this with Cyborg and Raven, like when he's talking about the past, and he's like, "I'm not sure if this is real, if this was just in my head." And like, oh, that's interesting. Like he's remembering like the original timeline, but like I'm wondering, does fighting with Zolomon, does that trigger like strong memories? Yeah, like does that like make him remember like those really harsh elements of his past? I wonder.
Yeah,
I could see it.
Yeah, it could do. Yeah,
I could see it. And do we get back to like dealing with Linda and stuff? And even if it is like one double shipping flashbook, if Williamson's going to alternate between focusing on Wally and Barry, that'd be great. Like give Wally this stage. It's fantastic.